Welcome to the deep dive. We are jumping straight into a really profound question today. What if the true measure of your leadership wasn't your resume, not the projects you delivered or the milestones you hit, but the caliber of the leaders who rise up specifically because you personally chose to invest in them?
And that's a huge shift in thinking. The research we explored frames this as, well, not just a good idea, but as absolutely urgent.
Urgent, not optional. Why so urgent?
It's simple, really. The sources say that modern organizations, they rise and fall at the speed of culture. In this kind of environment, just relying on your own talent, your own personal genius, it's a guaranteed path to, well, to obsolescence.
So that's our mission for this deep dive. We're trying to extract the blueprint for moving from being the achiever, the person who's brilliant at their job, to becoming the multiplier, the one who enables brilliance in everyone else.
Exactly. The future belongs to those who multiply influence, not just manage responsibilities.
And we're looking at a really historic pivot here. This isn't just about changing your management style. It's a whole new identity.
It is. It's a move away from that old model of control and power and those short-term wins. And it's a move toward collaboration, empowerment, and real generational impact. It's a conviction, a deliberate choice.
It sounds like it requires changing how you fundamentally see your own role. So let's start right there. Section 1. How is leadership being redefined? And what's the immediate cost if you ignore this?
Well, the entire measuring stick is it's inverted. It stops being about what I accomplish. It becomes measured by what I enable others to accomplish. Your success is literally quantified by the success you create for your team.
And to really get how radical that is, you have to look at where our old habits came from, right?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, so many of us are still running on, leadership software from the industrial era.
Command and control.
Exactly. Efficiency was king, knowledge was centralized, the leader held all the keys to the kingdom.
And that made sense for that time when the work was predictable, repetitive.
But contrast that with now, the information relational economy. Everything is about adaptability, decentralized decisions, collaboration. Leaders can't be managers of fixed systems anymore. They have to be, as one source put it, cultivators of people.
But there's a tension there because leaders know that in their heads, but when the pressure is on...
They revert. They fall back on what they know, which is control.
And the sources call that the vulnerability of hoarding.
Yes. Leaders who cling to that control, who hoard knowledge, even with good intentions, they just burn out. Their teams stagnate, and the whole organization becomes incredibly fragile.
Was there a specific example of that fragility?
There was a really powerful one, actually. A ministry leader. Incredibly passionate, super talented, but a micromanager. Every budget decision, every creative output, every single partnership, it all went through this one person.
And for a while, I'm guessing the results looked great.
They looked robust because the leader was brilliant.
But what happens when that central node just fails?
Precisely. This leader had to be away unexpectedly for a month, and the entire organization just froze.
Froze.
Completely. Minor spending decisions stalled, vendor contracts for a huge event couldn't get signed because no one else had the authority. Morale didn't just drop, teams just started spinning their wheels. They realized their value was completely tied to one person's constant presence. It exposed a catastrophic fragility.
That's a powerful cautionary tale. You can be a genius, but if the whole system grinds to a halt when you take a vacation, you haven't built an organization. You've built a very sophisticated bottleneck.
And getting past that bottleneck, that requires the multiplier mindset. It starts with just seeing people differently.
Okay, so that brings us to section 2. Spotting that hidden potential. How do you start building that resilience? The sources say multipliers see potential where others see none. But let's be realistic, in a high-stakes environment, isn't it a huge risk to bet on quiet potential over a proven star?
That is the critical question, because it gets right to our biases. Organizations naturally gravitate toward performance history, charisma, the lightest person in the room, the visible stars.
Sure.
But multipliers, they know that those systems often overlook the emerging leaders, the ones who might be quieter or less experienced, but have these deep core traits like character and curiosity.
So you have to intentionally look past the surface.
You have to. There was this great little anecdote about a team member named Daniel at a nonprofit. He was seen as, well, the description was quiet but competent. You know the type.
The solid implementer. Gets things done, but doesn't necessarily offer a lot of ideas in the big meeting.
Exactly. His supervisor saw him as a great doer, but not a leader.
But someone saw something else.
Yes. A mentor recognized this latent talent. He had this careful, analytical mind that just wasn't being used. So instead of waiting for Daniel to ask, the mentor gave him a small project, a new outreach initiative, not critical to the main mission, but with full decision-making authority.
And he didn't micromanage him.
That's the key. He offered support and what the source called psychological safety.
And what happened?
It unlocked him. Turned out Daniel didn't lack talent. He just lacked the permission and the space to lead. Within months, he's proposing creative solutions, showing leadership instincts no one knew he had.
So if it's not charisma we're looking for, what are the traits? What should you be screening for?
The sources are pretty clear on this. They prioritize things like deep curiosity and initiative, also character and integrity. Who someone is when no one's watching.
That's a big one.
Huge. And quiet influence among their peers. And then, of course, adaptability and resilience. These are the things that actually translate into leadership, even if they don't look like loud ambition.
It's such a timeless principle. The source is even connected to the biblical model of Jesus choosing his disciples. He didn't go for the established religious leaders. He picked fishermen, a tax collector.
Exactly. People who were completely unremarkable by the standards of the day. And that's the takeaway. A multiplier has to see beyond what is and project what could be. You're not betting on polish. You're placing trust in raw potential.
Well, once you place that bet, you have to nurture it, which brings us to catalytic mentorship.
Right, and mentorship can sometimes feel a bit unstructured, just a coffee meeting here and there. But the sources define it as way more robust than that. It's more than coaching, more than skill transfer. It's a deep relational investment that's designed to initiate exponential growth.
So what does that look like in practice, beyond just giving advice?
Well, take the example of a young leader, Sarah. She had incredible drive, amazing technical skill, but she really struggled with team conflict and making high-stakes decisions under pressure.
Okay.
Her mentor didn't just hand her a book. They met consistently, intentionally. They'd talk through real scenarios, and the mentor would walk her through the thought process behind a wise decision.
So it was modeling, not just telling.
It was observation and dialogue. And that relational approach allowed Sarah to grow. She didn't just get better at her job, she learned how to navigate complexity. And, most importantly, she learned how to replicate that process with her own team.
That's the key, isn't it? The replication. That's what makes it multiplication, not just coaching.
And to do that, it has to be a structured rhythm, not just a casual chat.
What does that structure require?
3 things, mainly. First, intentionality. You choose who you mentor strategically. Second, consistency. Regular meetings, direct and honest feedback. And third, it has to be a trust-based relationship. A safe space where mistakes are seen as part of the learning process.
And the end goal is always
Multiplication. You're equipping the mentee not just to succeed, but to be qualified to mentor others. It's that generational model, like Paul telling Timothy to entrust what he learned to others who could then teach others. An unbroken chain.
And that chain is forged with relational capital. The currency that makes it all possible is trust.
Yes. The sources are so clear on this. Trust is the soil in which potential takes root. Without it, all you get is fear and compliance.
And with it,
people feel safe enough to innovate, to admit they messed up, and to take the initiative you need for that exponential growth.
the research breaks that trust down into a few key dimensions.
It does. 3 of them. The first is competence.
Pretty straightforward. People have to believe you know what you're doing.
It's the baseline. You have to respect their skill. The second is character. Do you have integrity? Do you follow through, even when it's hard?
And the third, connection. That feels like the one that gets lost when the pressure is on.
It often is. That sense that the leader genuinely cares about you as a person, not just your output. When you have all 3, competence, character, and connection, you get that fertile ground. Think of David and Jonathan, or Jesus trusting Peter even after his failures. Trust isn't passive, it's an active choice to empower.
You cannot multiply without trust, period. But even the best multiplier can't scale their influence forever just through relationships. Personal capacity is limited, which is why we have to talk about building systemic capacity, our final section.
This is where you move from the individual to the infrastructure. Even the most brilliant, high-trust leaders need systems, because your personal capacity is, like the source says, inherently limited and vulnerable. Your energy and time are finite.
So you need systems to distribute the load.
Exactly. To distribute knowledge, responsibility, authority That's what creates sustainable growth.
It's like organizational shock absorption. It preserves memory when people leave. It prevents those bottlenecks we talked about.
And it ensures continuity during a crisis. There was a great example of a startup founder who handled all the major client relationships himself
Let me guess, as they grew, everything slowed down.
to a trickle. It was causing huge frustration. The solution wasn't just to hire more managers. It was to create cross-functional teams and give them real authority to make decisions. The founder had to let go of the how so he could focus on what's next.
It's that timeless principle of delegation, and the sources actually point to a classic biblical blueprint for this.
They do. Jethro's advice to Moses in Exodus.
Right, Moses is burning himself out, judging every single dispute for the entire nation.
All day long. And his father-in-law, Jethro, just comes in and says, this is not sustainable. You have to empower other leaders to handle the smaller things. It's maybe the oldest systems blueprint in history.
And when you start thinking systemically like that, it forces you to completely redefine success.
It has to. You can't just measure your own titles, accolades, and visible accomplishments. That's the achiever's metric.
So what's the multiplier's metric?
It's legacy. It's influence, transformation, multiplication. The question stops being how successful am I and becomes who is successfully carrying this vision forward without me.
The sources give some great historical examples of this, like Joseph in Egypt.
Yes. His legacy wasn't his title second in command. That was temporary. His real legacy was the faithful stewardship that saved millions of lives from famine, that shaped the future for generations.
Or Esther. Her legacy isn't that she was queen.
Not at all. It was her courage and influence that saved her people. True success is found in that ripple effect that goes far beyond any temporary position you hold.
So if we pull this all together, we've mapped this journey from the achiever, who is focused on their own performance, to the multiplier, who is obsessed with spotting potential, developing it with trust, and then scaling it through systems.
And it's not easy. It takes profound humility, a lot of patience, and a real willingness to let go of control and to accept that people will do things differently than you would.
You have to be okay with them failing and learning from it.
That's the game. It's relational and it's high stakes.
Which brings us to the final challenge that the research poses for you, the person listening right now. Will you keep leading alone, relying on your own limited capacity, being that inevitable bottleneck? Or will you embrace the extraordinary and, often uncomfortable work of developing leaders who will outlast you?
The answer to that question really determines your legacy. And maybe a final thought to take with you is this idea of the leadership ripple. Every single intentional decision you make, every quiet mentorship conversation, every act of trust, it all ripples across generations.
And that ripple can start small. It can start this week. Identify one area, just one task, one decision where you are holding on to control. And entrust that authority wisely to an emerging leader on your team. Just start the ripple.
Because your legacy at the end of the day won't be measured by what you accomplished alone. It'll be measured by the people you empowered. That is the ultimate measure of a multiplier.